Good Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversations Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this hump day. We have the truth of the day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and in today's entertainment spotlight, being part of my conversation with best-selling author Iris Bolling, who celebrated the release of her new book, The Aftermath, now. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Wednesday headlines. In national news, this is how I'm going to die. Officers tell January 6 stories. This is how I'm going to die, defending this entrance. Capitol Police Sergeant Gonnell recalled thinking, testifying Tuesday at the emotional opening hearing of the congressional panel investigating the violent January 6 Capitol insurrection. Gonnell told House investigators he could feel himself losing oxygen as he was crushed by rioters, supporters of then-President Donald Trump, as he tried to hold them back and protect the Capitol and lawmakers. He and three other officers gave their accounts of the attacks, sometimes wiping away tears, sometimes angrily rebuking Republicans who have resisted the probe and embraced Trump's downplaying of the day's violence. Along with graphic video of the hand-to-hand fighting, the officers described being beaten as they held off the mob that broke through windows and doors and interrupted the certification of Joe Biden's presidential win. The new committee launched its probe with a focus on the law enforcement officers who protected them, putting a human face on the violence of the day. Tensions on Capitol Hill have only worsened since the insurrection, with many Republicans playing down or outright denying the violence that occurred and denouncing the Democrat-led investigation as politically motivated. Democrats are reminding that officers sworn to protect the Capitol suffered serious injuries at the hands of the rioters. All of the officers expressed feelings of betrayal at the Republicans who have dismissed the violence. The witnesses detailed the horror of their assaults and the lasting trauma in the 6 months since, both mental and physical. At the hearing's end, the witnesses all pleaded with the lawmakers to dig deeper into how it happened. The lawmakers on the committee too grew emotional as they played videos of the violence and repeatedly thanked the police for protecting them. The probe will also look at security failures that allowed hundreds of people to breach the Capitol and send lawmakers running for their lives. In more national news, CDC reverses course on indoor masks in some parts of the U.S. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reversed course on Tuesday on some masking guidelines, recommending that even vaccinated people return to wearing masks indoors in parts of the U.S. where the coronavirus is surging. Citing new information about the ability of the Delta variant to spread among vaccinated people, the CDC also recommended indoor masks for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to schools, regardless of vaccination status. The new guidance follows recent decisions in Los Angeles and St. Louis to revert to indoor mask mandates amid a spike in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations that have been especially bad in the South. The country is averaging more than 57,000 cases a day and 24,000 COVID-19 hospitalizations. Most new infections in the U.S. continue to be among unvaccinated people, but breakthrough infections, which generally cause milder illness, can occur in vaccinated people. When earlier strains of the virus predominated, infected vaccinated people were found to have low levels of virus and were deemed unlikely to spread the virus much. In more national news, man pleads guilty to 4 Asian spot killings, sentenced to life. A man accused of killing 8 people, most of them women of Asian descent, at Atlanta area massage businesses pleaded guilty to murder on Tuesday in 4 of the killings and was handed 4 sentences of life without parole. Robert Aaron Long, 22, still faces the death penalty in the 4 other deaths, which are being prosecuted in a different county. The string of shootings at 3 different businesses in March of this year ignited outrage and fueled fear among Asian Americans who were already facing increased hostility at the time linked to the coronavirus pandemic. Many were particularly upset when authorities suggested Long's crimes were not racially motivated, but instead born of a sex addict, which is not recognized as an official disorder. In Atlanta, Long could be sentenced to death if convicted in the 4 deaths. There he also faces charges of aggravated assault and domestic terrorism in addition to murder, and prosecutors have said they will seek to have the deaths classified as a hate crime. In sports, Biles withdraws from gymnastics final to protect team and self. Simone Biles arrived in Tokyo as the star of the U.S. Olympic movement and perhaps the games themselves. She convinced herself she was prepared for the pressure, that she was ready to carry the burden of outsized expectations. Only as the women's gymnastic team final approached on Tuesday night, something felt off, and the athlete widely considered the greatest of all time in her sport knew it. So rather than push through the doubts that crept into her head, as she's done so many times in the past, Biles decided enough was enough. She was done for now. And finally, in business news, weakness in tech stocks pulls Wall Street back from records. A slide in technology and consumer-oriented companies helped pull stocks lower on Wall Street Tuesday, dragging the major indexes below the record highs they set a day earlier. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, take it away.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. See your many opportunities for advancement and fulfillment. Many of you may feel stuck in a rut right now due to the many issues that are surrounding our planet. However, you can unstick yourself by doing something new. Explore unfamiliar worlds of knowledge. Challenge yourself to read unfamiliar books. Watch educational or historical documentaries to broaden your horizons. Search the Internet for opportunities to aid you toward achieving a new level of success for yourself and or your product. These inquiries you seek will not only add to your fulfillment, they will also give you a new path to follow towards success. God has given you this time, this opportunity to advance yourself. Be sure you take advantage of it. Today, expand your horizons to once again approach life with excitement and enthusiasm. And remember, enjoy the day.
Best-selling author Iris Bolling is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight, right here on Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Best-selling author Iris Bolling is celebrating her newest release called The Aftermath. She rejoined me recently on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about the success and her literary journey. Here's a bit of that conversation.
You are just a storyteller, period. You don't go into it. Now, this is my assessment as a reader and then also watching your career, trying to push a certain agenda, trying to get people to think a certain way. You just go into it for the storytelling. I want to ask you about that. I mean, how have you stayed so consistent in that? Because as you said, 30-plus books. How have you been able just to be able to tell the stories you want to tell?
I think for me, my stories are all character-driven. So the stories are being told from the character's point of view. It's being told the way that character is playing in my head. And yes, I'm not crazy, but yes, my characters do talk to me. Sometimes they wake me up at night and say, get up and write this piece of the story. You know? Yeah. So my stories are character-driven. So when I sit down to write a book, that's actually those characters that's already given me parts of that story. And I've written it down somewhere, somewhere along. For example, Nate Raines, The Aftermath. That story really started 4 or 5 years ago. When I wrote down something that Nate said to me in my mind, and I wrote it down, and then we turned up to have like several different books outlined from whatever Nate was saying to me on that particular day. And so my stories are really generated from the characters that come to mind. And the funny thing about that is when you write something down and that character in your mind doesn't like it, they will not let it stay.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll have you guys on tomorrow's more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make it a great one.